This story is not meant to be heard after midnight.
Ethan Drake had built a modest following online as a streamer focused on urban exploration, dark corners of the internet, and forbidden content. His audience craved thrills, but Ethan's obsession went deeper. He wanted proof that the world still held unexplainable horrors, things no one else dared to document. It was just past midnight when a message popped on his encrypted chat app. Live event initiated. Join now. No sender, no platform. Ethan hesitated, then clicked. A black screen appeared, pixelated and static-filled, with a countdown, 59 minutes and 59 seconds. Curiosity overrode caution. Ethan leaned closer to the screen. The countdown ticked down slowly, echoing in his mind like a heartbeat. Suddenly, a new feed appeared. Dim fluorescent light flickered in a bare concrete room. In the center, a chair. Bound to it, a man, head slumped forward, bruised, trembling. Ethan's stomach churned. The man's ragged breathing cut through the silence. Scratches and deep gouges marred the walls behind him, forming letters that didn't quite make sense, like someone desperate to spell a warning. Ethan adjusted the camera feed with his fingers, trying to zoom in. The man lifted his head slightly. His eyes were wide, glistening with raw terror, staring straight into the lens, as if he could see Ethan. A whisper escaped the man's cracked lips. "Please, if you're watching, don't look away." A metallic clink echoed somewhere in the darkness. The man's chest heaved. His voice rose in frantic pleas, choking on his own fear. Then movement behind him. Slow, deliberate. Ethan's pulse raced as a tall, distorted silhouette emerged from the shadows. Limbs unnaturally long, movements precise and inhuman. He couldn't see the face, only the glint of something wet reflecting the dim light. The man screamed, banging against the chair. The figure raised its hand. Static consumed the screen. When the image returned, new text scrolled across the bottom. Stream will resume in 59:00. Do not close the window. And beneath it, a line that froze Ethan's blood. You have been chosen. The countdown clock blinked. 58:47. Ethan's palms were damp. His heart raced in sync with the beeping numbers. The silence around him felt thick, almost tactile. Every sound, his breathing, the faint hum of his computer, echoed in the still night. The feed flickered, revealing the same concrete room. The man in the chair was now struggling violently, his voice raw with terror. The tall shadow remained just outside the light, unnervingly still. Ethan leaned closer. There was a note taped to the chair, visible in the low light. Watch carefully. Do not blink. A metallic chain clinked as the figure moved slowly around the bound man. The camera adjusted automatically, zooming in on the man's face. Sweat mixed with tears streaked down his cheeks. Then a second man appeared, bound and slumped, face down. Ethan's stomach turned. The shadow turned toward the new victim. No face visible, just the glint of something sharp. A whispering sound, almost human, almost machine, filled Ethan's room through the speakers. "You are next." Panic surged. He tried to close the feed, but the window wouldn't respond. Every attempt to shut it down caused the countdown to reset. The first man's screams grew louder, echoing through Ethan's headphones as the shadow raised its hand again. The second man's body jolted, convulsing with fear. Ethan realized he could do nothing but watch. The feed had him trapped, the ritual unfolding in real time, and he could feel it reaching toward him. The screen flickered. Then Ethan noticed a chat window opening next to the video feed. Messages typed in milliseconds scrolled faster than he could read. "You watch. You obey. You belong. Do not look away or you will regret it." Every line hit him like a punch. The font distorted, twisting as if alive, words stretching and shrinking in impossible ways. On the feed, the bound men were screaming, but one of them was staring directly into the camera, as if acknowledging Ethan personally. Sweat beaded on Ethan's forehead. He couldn't look away. The shadow shifted closer, and the camera feed's light bent strangely around its shape. It moved with terrifying precision. One hand raised, pointing at the camera. Ethan felt a cold sensation in his chest, a pull toward the screen. His own room seemed to fade. The walls disappeared. He wasn't sure if he was standing, sitting, or floating. Only the screen remained. Then a loud crack, like a whip, echoed. One of the bound men jolted violently, blood streaking from a cut on his forehead. The shadow didn't flinch. It had purpose, inevitability. Ethan's instincts screamed at him to leave, to run, but his eyes refused. The chat now scrolled his name repeatedly. "Ethan, Ethan, Ethan." A whisper, so soft he almost didn't hear it. "Welcome. You are chosen to see." He felt the camera lens burn into his mind. The feed was no longer just images. It was sensation, presence, dread made tangible. The countdown hit 45:12. Ethan felt numb. The feed no longer showed just one room. It was shifting, morphing. Walls warped, floorboards creaked though no floor existed. The shadow moved between spaces that physically shouldn't be there. The first bound man screamed, his voice echoing in impossible directions. Ethan felt it in his chest, vibrating through his bones. The second man had stopped moving entirely, staring into nothingness. The shadow turned slowly, gliding over the concrete, pointing at the camera again. This time, he could see its face, distorted, skeletal, with eyes that burned like coals. It smiled. Ethan's chair scraped across his floor. He was leaning, falling, and yet unable to move. The screen pulsed, drawing him closer. A whisper, "Step closer or vanish." Ethan's heart pounded as the feed shifted again. The room had transformed into a labyrinthine corridor, walls stretching impossibly into darkness. The two men remained bound, their bodies bruised and trembling, faces pale with terror. Shadows multiplied around them, each movement unnaturally precise, silent yet threatening. One shadow separated from the rest, slinking toward the first man. A long metallic object gleamed in its hand. Ethan could hear the faint scrape of something against concrete, a sound that made his stomach twist. The first man tried to scream, but the shadow silenced him with a gesture. Then it crouched, whispering words Ethan couldn't decipher, yet somehow understood as a curse, an invocation that bound him to watch. The second man's eyes darted to a new shadow emerging from the far corner. It moved erratically, limbs contorting in ways that defied logic. The air itself seemed thick, like a living thing pressing against Ethan through his screen. A sudden flash of light revealed dozens of scratches on the walls, symbols, faces, and warnings etched in a rush of desperation. Ethan recognized the pattern from something he had seen in an old occult manuscript, a ritual of binding designed to trap not just bodies, but souls. The shadows circled closer, a silent chorus of inevitability. Ethan's chest tightened. He realized the feed wasn't just a broadcast. It was a bridge connecting the horrors on screen directly to him. One shadow turned, pointing at the camera, its fingers elongated impossibly, nails sharp and glinting. Ethan felt the screen grow hot beneath his palms, as if the room on the other side was reaching for him. Suddenly, the first man convulsed violently, a scream piercing through the speakers. The shadows recoiled slightly, then merged back into a single form, taller, darker, more terrifying. Ethan's blood ran cold. He couldn't look away, couldn't move, couldn't breathe. The feed had become a trap, and he realized with horror that the countdown wasn't just time. It was a measurement of his own exposure, the seconds slipping by, bringing him closer to an unknown fate. The feed shifted again. Ethan's room felt colder, air heavier. The shadow now circled both men in a ritualistic pattern, its movements slow and deliberate. Symbols glowed faintly on the floor, forming intricate circles filled with runes. The first man screamed, his voice raw enough to make Ethan's ears ache. The shadow raised its hands, and the glow intensified, searing shapes into the air that seemed almost tangible. The second man's body trembled violently, as if unseen forces were squeezing his chest. Ethan leaned closer, captivated and horrified. Every second felt stretched, elastic, time itself bending around the ritual. A strange hum filled Ethan's room. It wasn't coming from his speakers. It was inside his head. A cadence, a rhythm matching the pulsing symbols. His vision blurred. He saw flashes of ancient ceremonies, dark gatherings, whispered incantations that promised power but demanded a price. The shadow turned, revealing its face fully. Hollow eyes, a grin that twisted impossibly. One hand reached forward. Ethan felt a pull, like gravity bending toward the screen. The first man was lifted slightly, hovering against the chair, body stiff with unnatural tension. A low chanting sound emanated from the shadow, vibrating through Ethan's chest. The second man's eyes rolled back, mouth forming silent screams. Ethan's instincts screamed at him to leave, to shut the feed, but the window was unresponsive. His mind was trapped, meshed with the digital ritual. The shadows pulsed in response to his fear, every heartbeat magnified into sound and sensation. As the countdown ticked down, the shadows merged into a single entity, towering over both victims. A sense of inevitability filled the screen. Ethan realized the feed was now measuring his own exposure, linking him to the outcome. The first man let out a final, guttural scream. Ethan's screen went white for a moment, then displayed a single message in red. "You are next." The countdown reached 30:00. Ethan's vision blurred, his surroundings fading. The feed had begun to project outward, almost reaching beyond the screen, brushing against the walls of his room. The shadow looked directly into the camera. Its hollow eyes seemed to pierce Ethan's soul, reading fear, hesitation, curiosity. A strange vibration filled the air, like something alive, moving between worlds. The first man screamed, mouth wide, limbs thrashing. The shadow waved its elongated fingers. Suddenly, the man's body jerked violently, leaning toward the camera as if being pulled across the barrier. Ethan's mind screamed, trying to comprehend the impossible. Was this digital, physical, somewhere in between? The second man's face was pale, eyes blank, lips moving in silent chants. Messages scrolled on the screen, faster, urgent. Look, watch, believe. The countdown ticked, 28:42. Each number reverberated through Ethan's chest, syncing with the pulsing lights of the runes. He could feel it, a tangible pressure emanating from the feed. The shadows were no longer contained. They had crossed, bridging from the screen into his space. Ethan staggered backward, chair scraping against the floor. One shadow stretched further, fingers brushing his desk. The hum grew louder, almost deafening. Ethan's heartbeat matched the rhythm of the ritual, trapped in a shared cadence of terror. Suddenly, the feed snapped back to the concrete room. Both men were motionless, bound, and the shadow now turned to Ethan directly. The red glow of the runes reflected in his eyes through the camera. A whisper echoed from his headphones. "You have been chosen, Ethan Drake. The world you knew is gone." The screen flickered violently, symbols spinning, static overlaying the images. Ethan's hands trembled on the keyboard. He realized with horror, this was no longer just a stream. It was an initiation. The countdown reached 1500 hours. Ethan's entire room now seemed merged with the feed. The shadows moved with terrifying precision, weaving a complex pattern that Ethan could feel more than see. The first man convulsed violently, blood streaking his face. The second man's eyes glowed faint red, the ritual embedding itself into his very being. Ethan's panic grew. He tried to close the feed, shut down the computer, unplug everything, but the countdown persisted, immutable. The shadow pointed directly at him. A vibration ran through his body, matching his heartbeat, forcing his focus to lock on the screen. Symbols on the floor twisted, reaching toward him. Messages scrolled frantically. You will join them. There is no escape. Ethan stumbled back, breath ragged. He realized with terror the stream was no longer just a window. It was a tether, and he had become a participant, measured by seconds ticking down. The shadows converged around the bound men, their forms rising, twisting, merging into a single monstrous entity, larger, taller, more horrifying than before. The countdown hit midnight. The feed went black, then bright white, blinding. Ethan shielded his eyes. When the light dimmed, a new message appeared. You have entered the stream. Ethan was no longer sitting in his room. His surroundings were replaced by the concrete labyrinth, shadows moving around him. The sensation was complete immersion. The feed had claimed him. Bound men were gone, replaced by figures standing silently, their eyes hollow. The shadow approached Ethan directly, towering, elongated fingers brushing his face. A whisper, welcome to the stream. Your role is permanent. Ethan tried to move, but his body was weightless, floating in the void between dimensions. Fear consumed him, but the shadows responded only to it, pulsing in rhythm with his terror. The screen overlay from his physical world flickered in his vision, showing the countdown reset. 59:59. It was endless. He understood. This was no stream. It was a bridge between realms, and he was now on the other side. Ethan's consciousness stretched. The countdown ticked endlessly. He could see past streams, past viewers, other victims, faces twisted in terror, all trapped in the same fate. The shadow raised a hand. Symbols pulsed around them, a constant reminder that the stream never ended. Ethan tried to scream, but sound did not exist here. He was part of the ritual now, a permanent observer and participant. Time had no meaning. The digital and physical worlds had merged. The feed was alive, and Ethan was its newest anchor. A final whisper. You watch. You cannot leave. The stream never ends. The screen faded to black, and the countdown began anew.
If you're still here, it means it found you too.